This is some of the smartest investments we can possibly imagine. And you got to invest in things you know.
Right.
And it turns out we happen to know this space. And so the opportunity to invest in that, the return on that money is going to be fantastic. So we love the opportunity to invest. We don't have to invest.
Right.
And it's not required for us to invest, but they're giving us the opportunity to invest. Fantastic thing.
It's about to go up by 1 billion times.
Right, by a million X, by a billion X.
That's right. That's the part that most people haven't completely internalized. This is that industry we were talking about, Bud. This is the Industrial Revolution.
So AI is absolutely on fire right now, guys. And if we just look at the chart for Nvidia in the last 5 years, it's up over 1,300%. And everybody wants to know, is Nvidia a bubble? Is AI a bubble? Or are we just getting started? Jensen's going to break everything down for us right here. There's a few other companies that we are going to talk about in this video that Jensen is saying, quote for quote, these will be the next multi-trillion-dollar companies. Let's see what he has to say.
Just feeding the Metas, the Googles, the ByteDances, the Amazons, and take their classical, traditional way of doing hyperscaling and moving into AI, that's hundreds of billions of dollars.
And because that may be 4 billion people on the planet today, if you take TikTok, Meta into account, Google into account, who are already demanding workloads that are driven by accelerated computing.
That's exactly right. And so without even thinking about AI creating new opportunities, it's about AI shifting how you used to do something to the new way of doing something. Okay. And then now let's talk about the future. So far I've only spoken kind of largely about just mundane stuff. Just mundane stuff. The old way is now wrong. You're no longer going to use fuel light lanterns. You're going to go to electricity. That's all.
Right.
Okay. And you no longer, prop planes. You're going to go to jets. That's all. And so, so far, that's all I've talked about. And then now that the incredible thing is when you go to AI, when you go to accelerated computing, then what happens? What are the new applications that emerge as a result? And that's all the AI stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's that opportunity. What is it? What does that look like? Well, the simple way of thinking about that is where motors replaced labor and physical activity, we now have AI, these AI supercomputers, these AI factories that I talk about. They're going to generate tokens to augment human intelligence, right? Suppose I were to hire a $100,000 employee and I augmented that $100,000 employee with a $10,000 AI.
Yes.
And that $10,000 AI, as a result, made the $100,000 employee twice more productive, 3 times more productive. Would I do it? Heartbeat. I'm doing it across every single person in our company right now, right?
They all have co-agents.
That's right. That's right. Every single software engineer, every single chip designer in our company already has AIs working with them. 100% coverage.
Yeah.
As a result, the number of chips we're building is better. The number is growing. The pace at which we're doing it is right. And so we're growing faster as a company. As a result, we're hiring more people. Our productivity is greater. Our top line is greater. Our profitability is greater. What's not to love about that?
Yeah.
Now, apply the Nvidia story to the world's GDP.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy stuff. And honestly, the world that we live in right now, it's probably going to look so different even 5 years down the road. I'm not saying anybody knows exactly where AI is going to be, but a couple things that we do know for certain is going to be this. AI is here, it's not going anywhere, and it's only going to get more important in our lives every single day. And if we just go back to Nvidia's share price here really quick, I realized that pretty much everybody wishes that they bought more Nvidia when it was $13 a share. Again, it's $187 right now. But the question that we're going to try to figure out by the end of this video is, do we think Nvidia is still a buy? And what are those 3 companies that Jensen was talking about that are probably going to be the next couple $1 trillion companies? We're going to break all that down in this video right here, but let's continue on this interview.
But I think the skeptics would say we need to go from 100 billion of AI revenue in 26 to at least $1 trillion of AI revenue in 2030. Okay. You just were talking a minute ago about 5 trillion when you look at kind of global GDP. If you did a bottoms up, can you see your way to $1 trillion of AI driven revenues from 100 billion over the course of the next 5 years? Are we growing that fast?
Yes. And I would also say we're already there.
Okay. So explain that.
Because the hyperscalers, they went from CPUs to AI. Their entire revenue base is all now AI driven. You can't do TikTok without AI.
Correct.
You can't do YouTube Short without AI. You can't, you can't do any of this stuff without AI. The amazing things that Meta's doing for, customized content, personalized content, you can't do that without AI.
So when we just take a step back and realize that AI is not just ChatGPT going into these chatbots and saying, hey, what is the answer to this question? It's self-driving cars, it's robots, it's agents that we could basically bring in as an employee to help us do our job, which will then make that business more efficient. Maybe we're not going to have to hire as many people, which I've been talking about in previous videos and in Discord. The job openings are going down, probably because CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, they're going to say, well, when people get laid off or when they get fired, we're not going to backfill them because the people that are still here, we're just going to give them a couple agents and they're going to be just as, if not more productive than what they were before with the other employee. Social media, the whole goal of TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, they just want you to keep doom scrolling hour after hour on their platform because the longer you stay on the platform, the more ads that you're going to watch. And the more ads that you watch, the more money that they make. So AI is making all of these things so much more efficient. Like, I'm not even talking about coding yet. What about coding, website design, architects, doctors, lawyers, all this stuff, developing cures for cancer? AI is not going anywhere, and it's just getting more and more ingrained into our life. And yes, Nvidia's earnings per share has been absolutely exploding. Just look at this year by year, 2018 to basically 2023. Yeah, the earnings per share went up a lot, but look at the big move that came once AI started to scale, and it's not projected to slow down, and this goes all the way out to 2028. What if we look at revenue? How does revenue look? It's following the same trend. And what follows revenue growth and what follows earnings per share growth, that is typically what the stock is going to do. And I realize that nobody really wants to buy into a stock after it just ran up a lot, but you got to understand those charts. Earnings per share is probably going to keep growing pretty rapidly. Revenue is probably going to keep growing pretty rapidly. As long as those keep growing, the stock is probably going to keep going up in share price. I get it that fundamentally it's a little bit expensive, but what if you buy it right now and it's maybe a little bit expensive? 2 years down the road, if you just simply take your cost basis, maybe you buy it for $180 per share. If the earnings per share goes up, let me just show you this on the chart. Like if 2025 earnings per share is going to be roughly $3 per share, if you just hold it for 2 more years, the earnings per share is probably going to be double. And then when you buy it for $180 per share as your cost basis, if you divide $180 per share by 6 for the earnings per share, you're then going to realize that the price earnings ratio level of your cost basis versus the earnings per share, it's going to be way cheaper. Now, you don't want to use this as an excuse to just say, oh, I'm going to buy the stock because growth is going to keep going up by a lot. You have to have a longer term time horizon if you want to hold Nvidia. Now, there is a couple other companies that Jensen is talking about that are probably going to be multi-trillion-dollar companies just like Nvidia. I'm going to come back to Nvidia in just a second to show you exactly what I'm going to do on it. But we do got to dive into this interview a little bit more and these companies that Jensen's talking about. So here we go.
If we need to double, we'll double.
Yes.
Okay. So the supply chain is ready. Now we're just waiting for demand signals. And when the CSPs and the hyperscalers and our customers do their annual plan and they give us their forecast, we respond to that and we build to that. Now what's going on, of course, is that every one of their forecasts that they provide us turns out to have been wrong because they under forecasted. And so now we're always in a scramble mode. And so we've been in the scramble mode now for a couple of years.
There's 4 things that I've been talking about on this channel since I really started at day one. That's pricing power, that's a moat, that's a durable competitive advantage, and that's valuations. If you find a company that checks all the boxes on that stuff, you probably found something pretty good right there. Does Nvidia have pricing power? Well, they just said that typically when they get the orders from the hyperscalers and the customers, they usually underestimate how much they're actually going to buy. And then Meta calls and says, hey, yo, Jensen, can we get some more chips? He's going to say, no, I don't have them right now, but let me call up TSM and we'll get you a rush order. We'll get some more going for you. And what do you think he's going to do on the price for those chips when they want to rush order those in? He's going to gouge them on price. He's going to charge them more because he can, because he has pricing power and they have a moat. When you don't have that much competition, you could really charge whatever you want. I get it that AMD is good and AMD is coming, but Nvidia is the top dog right now. And honestly, fundamentally speaking, Nvidia is a little bit cheaper than AMD. So when you have those things stacked together, Nvidia looks like a pretty good investment if you plan to hold it for the long term. And if we just look at a chart of Nvidia year to date, remember in April how that stock went down 36%. I was buying the dip, I bought calls, I sold puts, I bought some shares, and I made pretty good money on it. And look at what's happening right now. Nvidia doubled off of that April 8th low because investors were realizing, hey, maybe we got a little bit emotional right here. Let me zoom out so you could see this dip right here. Maybe we got a little bit emotional. Maybe we shouldn't have sold off as much as we sold off. And then they realize, oh, AI is the future. The earnings story is still there. The growth story is still there. The demand story is still there. We're just getting started. So now we're going to bid the stock back up to, the higher level that it's at right now. But the fact that we have pricing power and a moat and a competitive advantage, and of course the valuation is still fair, it does make Nvidia a compelling hold for long-term investment. Maybe sell some puts, maybe buy some calls. But if you do that, especially options, you have to be very, very careful and very, very patient because the overall market is a little bit hot. You could see my account's been pumping out of the wazoo lately, and I realized that. I realized that this account has been pumping like crazy, and it's a time to be very, very careful. I'm not super leveraged on options right now. There are certain things that I feel like are undervalued, but Nvidia, if you have a longer term horizon, you could probably do pretty well in it. All right, so let's dive into those other companies that Jensen is talking about, how they have a multi-trillion-dollar possibility. I honestly believe that he's going to be right. Let's take a look.
OpenAI is likely going to be the next multi-trillion-dollar hyperscale company. Like Meta's a hyperscale.
Yeah.
Google's a hyperscale.
Yeah.
They're going to have consumer and enterprise services, and they are very likely going to be the world's next multi-trillion-dollar hyperscale company.
Yes.
So OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, Meta, and Google, those are the three companies that Jensen said are probably going to be the next multi-trillion-dollar companies. So if we just look at Meta first, you could see it's a $1.8 trillion market cap company. Let's go to a 5-year chart. You could see it's definitely been on a run here. If we go from the end of 2022 and look at that percent gain, crazy high. It's almost 700% gain. It's, $700 a share right now, and it was down at like $90 a share. So whoever bought down here is definitely pretty happy with Meta. Now, here's the thing. He didn't say when they're going to be the next multi-trillion-dollar company. He just said that they're probably going to hit that level at some point. I personally think that Meta is pretty fairly valued. I think it passes all the tests that I was laying out here on my big bad post-it note test. Pricing power, moat, competitive advantage, and valuation. Meta is pretty good on all that stuff, but there's one thing that does concern me on Meta, and it's the fact that they make all this money from ads. But if you go on Facebook or if you go on Instagram, you guys tell me, comment below. Do you feel like it's oversaturated with how many ads that you see, like the ratio of ad to just a regular post? I mean, I don't really go doom scroll anything, but I do just to see this for myself. I feel like almost 50% of the posts on Instagram are ads. So if they already saturated that market, how much more money can they really squeeze out of more ads per post on the platform? Probably not that much. Now, if we look at Google, you could see the market cap is almost $3 trillion. And geez, the stock has been on a tear off of this low right here that happened in April when pretty much everything fell. The stock is now up over 67% from the April low. Go to a 5-year chart, look at what's going on. Some boom bust cycles, but overall Google is up and to the right. Now, again, we don't know when this is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar company because, again, it's already $3 trillion. And the reason why I'm personally not invested in Google is, number one, because of the moat considerations. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but there's so many new AI chatbots that come out. ChatGPT is now doing search on it. ChatGPT is now doing shopping on it. There's all these new things that are coming out, and it's like, is Google going to be able to sustain on that? Is there less search traffic going to Google? Maybe yes and maybe no. And of course, the jury is still out to see how that's actually going to play out. But in the world of investing, we have thousands of opportunities that we could look at every single day, to be honest with you. Maybe Google is one that I missed, but I'll tell you what I did do. I didn't invest in Google, but what I did invest in is United Health. So maybe I missed out on Google, but I put that money in something else. It's not like it's just sitting in cash doing nothing, or I lost money. I put it in United Health in something I was more confident in, and I made money either way. That's the name of the game. I'm here to make money. You're here to make money. That's really what we got. Now, for OpenAI, of course, OpenAI, I think it's one of the best large language models that we have right now. There's agents on there. Grok is good too. Gemini is good too. They're all going to be commoditized at some point, which does make me wonder how OpenAI's moat is truly going to be if there's so much competition out there. So I'm personally not going to invest in OpenAI. The only one out of the three that I would invest in right here is going to be Meta. But of course, the ETFs that I hold, such as like VOO and Triple Q, I am getting indirect exposure to these companies right here, so I'm not really worried about buying a bunch in those individual companies. And I'll just close out this video with this. AI is the future, AI is great, but be very careful right now with overall stock market valuations, because if the Nasdaq starts to fall or the S&P 500 falls, Nvidia and these other companies aren't going to go up against the grain when everything else is falling. Usually all boats rise with the tide, all boats fall with the tide. So you have to understand that aspect right there. And investors are emotional, whether they're institutional or retail. They're emotional, they make mistakes, and as long as we're positioned to capitalize on upside and downside, and we're not over leveraged at a time like we're in right now, we are positioned to win and we are positioned to do okay. If you want to see that United Health trade, watch this video right here. I go through the whole thing of how I made like 70,000 bucks. I'll see you there.